our journey. So last time we discussed about three groups of desires: Rati, Trapti, and Tushti. Pleasure seeking mind goes outside, and there is no satisfaction. There is no satisfaction and happiness. So the next question comes, should we stop enjoying them? First thing. Or should we continue our life as it is? If we continue our life as it is, then there is no ultimate happiness and satisfaction. So should we stop enjoying them? So our master says no, but we should raise our awareness. We should raise our awareness in day-to-day life. We should continue working the way we are working. We should continue to earn what we are doing. Only one thing, there should be an absence of attachment. So attachment is not there. So if the attachment is not there, we can continue with the comfort level one. Do you remember last time we talked about everyone needs comfort level? So level one comfort is to meet the basic necessities of our life. Comfort level 2 means that I want more than basic necessities. Everyone wants that. Everyone. So how to move to the comfort level 2 without any stress or suffering? And that brings us to understand what exactly is the desire. One, and how desire makes us crazy. Two, and how to continue living without becoming crazy, so that the happiness and satisfaction continues unabated. So that leads to. So now, ask yourself whether it is suffering or pleasure, they happen in my mind. I experience happiness or pleasure or satisfaction in my mind. Isn't it? Happiness and satisfaction does not happen in object or people outside. Yes, I see that now I have a house, but happiness inside, satisfaction inside. Are you getting it? We are moving into a little deeper principle. Everything, all my experiences happens in within me. Object is outside, happiness is within me. Person is outside, pleasure is taking place in me. Are you clear? Are you clear about this? So, what is that causes me pleasure or happiness? In me, it is the thought, a simple thought. Then, what is thought? You look at it, the way, the sequence, the way our masters understands The nature of the mind that causes the desire that makes me crazy. That is what we are understanding. We have started understanding the person with a steady wisdom is always happy. Do you recall it? Steady wisdom, steady intellect. So when the intellect is steady, we understood the first point, and when the knowledge of the real self is there in the intellect, then that is known as a steady intellect. And then we understood because the mind is running after the object and people in the world outside for happiness and satisfaction in different ways: physical pleasure, food, and the accumulation of assets and wealth. And then we have come to that if we understand the very nature of desire, then all desire takes place in the thought. In the thought. So every thought has two components. You understand the entire series, step by step. Every thought has two things. The first thing is the object of knowledge, or any object, simply, plus I-ness. Give me any thought. I like pasta. Pasta is an object. And then plus I-ness. Simple mathematical equation of thought is equal to object plus I am. I want money. You made me crazy, so you are an object, and there is I. Think of this. Every thought. So, what we understand by the steady intellect, the knowledge of the real self, and the intellect is steady there. Are you getting it? We were started working on steady intellect. We understood that if the intellect is steady on what? On the knowledge of the real self, then we are always happy and satisfied. But our mind is running outside in three groups of desires: Rati, Tripti, Tushti. So our intellect is not steady. Clear? And if the intellect is not steady, then where it is going? So it is running after the thoughts of desire. Are you clear until this point? So there are millions of thoughts that causes 5 subjective states of the mind. That makes me crazy. Once you understand until this point, then it is very easy to move deeper. Or we can say, mind lives in 5 states, subjective states. First state is wandering state of the mind. Second state is forgetfulness. Third is obsessed. Fourth is one-pointedness. Fifth is emptiness. And emptiness of the mind is known as meditation. So I normally say it is crazy mind, it is lazy mind, it is obsessed mind. As long as our mind lives into the first three subjective states, we will never be happy and satisfied. Only in the last two subjective states, if it is one pointed and or it is empty, then only we have the happiness and satisfaction. You wake up in the morning, mind says it is a bad morning. That is one state. You go to the kitchen and you prepare a cup of coffee and you take it. Wow, what a great coffee! It made me happy. This is an obsessed mind. I'm not able to focus. What happened to me? Why these thoughts are going? This is the third, the wandering state of the mind. Are you getting it? So these five states of the mind are alternating at all the time, at all the time. In 1 minute, these five states can take place, or in 1 hour, these five subjective states can take place. That makes the mind crazy. Why it is happening? Because of the same three factors, the rati, trapti, and tusti. But how these five states of the mind is recognized by the thought. One is totally right perception. Fact. We see the fact. Another is a false perception. Third is the mind is alternating from one thought to the other, or it gets obsessed with the memory. First three states of the mind, the moment I recognize that my mind is wandering, obsessed, or a kind of forgetfulness, it simply means that I cannot have a steady wisdom. And if I don't have a steady wisdom, then this mind takes over the intellect. It lives in wrong notion, delusion. And when it lives in wrong notion and delusion, it causes suffering to me. For a moment, what is meditation? We say emptiness of mind is meditation. So it means when the mind is empty of these three subjective states, then it results in steady wisdom. Because every thought in the mind which is going outside for pleasure seeking, where the pleasure and satisfaction is not there, it returns with suffering. But now these thoughts are not there, so these subjective states is not there. And when they are not there, then this mind becomes free. And when the mind becomes free, we are free from We are free from the negative thought pattern, which causes the wandering mind, which causes the forgetfulness mind, which causes the obsessed mind. We enter into the steady wisdom. There is one way to recognize it easily. Any thought that enters into the mind is either painful or non painful. Some people remember their honey, past memory returns. Okay, I lived loveless life, Bill Gates. Simple. You see, any thought. For others, they remember the honey. No, no, that's very good. So that is also an attachment. That is an obsession. What is the third option that we have? I express peace and happiness with my honey. It comes from within. Thought is the same. Object is the same. Object is the honey. First two types of thought, painful or non painful. Non painful means attached and obsessed. Painful means you already understood. And the third option, that I'm expressing peace and happiness with the object and the things outside. So that is not neither the cause of suffering and not the cause of the pleasure, because I'm expressing peace and happiness with reference to any object in the world. That intellect is always steady. It will never be carried away by anything outside. That steady wisdom, that steady intellect leads to a deeper state of meditation. Last time I was talking something. See the state of the mind. You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, and you forget it. You forget the toothbrush. You have seen the object, you have done it, you forget it. But now see that what we do not forget, which are either painful or which gives me the pleasure. So the mind remembers all the time those objects in the thoughts. Our master says, when all the thoughts are left outside, one is absorbed into a deeper meditation, and that deeper meditation takes place because of the steady intellect. That is our goal. We want to be there. I'll repeat it so that you can think it over. Steady intellect, the intellect is focused. Where it is focused, it should be focused on the knowledge that is unchanging. What is that knowledge? That knowledge is the real self, knowledge of the real self. So when this intellect is focused on anything that is changing in this world, one day it will give you pleasure, other day it is definitely going to give you pain. Same object, painful, non-painful. That is how I explain. We marry, before marriage it is soulmate, and after a few months, soulmate. It's a fact. I will not ask anyone, but I can simply ask the question, do you love your honey 100%? And the answer is no. Can you refuse it? Anyone in the world. Because it pertains to the object or a person outside. The intellect cannot be made steady. When it is not steady, then we have millions of thoughts. And when we have millions of thoughts that is running after happiness and satisfaction outside in the world, it will cause problem and suffering. So the master says, why you are seeking happiness and satisfaction outside in the world where it is not? So where it is not and still the mind is running, so mind changes its states. Sometimes it gets obsessed, then it gets frustrated, and because it fails to secure happiness and satisfaction, so either it becomes crazy or it becomes lazy. Okay, leave as it is. I will see it later. So our master says, Abhyasa Vairagya Bhyam Tannirodha. What is the way to get out of it? The way to get out of these states of the mind is regular practice with dispassion. So now come to the main topic. When we practice meditation, the mind or the intellect should follow the practice with dispassion. Internally, it is a dispassion. And then you do all the steps, the meditation will succeed. If you don't do with the dispassion, after the practice, you will say, oh, I had lot of thoughts. What should I do? Today I did not focus. I have lot of experiences you have already shared with me in the last few weeks. Or something means some object or some person, thought related to that something and some person disturbed me. John is very clear about it. The fire station is very near the house. So at least you should be happy that it is only the fire station that causes the disturbances. There are other people whose fire station is their honey. You see? No. At least, you see that? So steadiness, if the steadiness, dispassion has to be there, and that dispassion means mind is not running after likes and dislikes. I told you this story. It happened in New Jersey. Somebody referred me to a woman. All women are beautiful, so she was also beautiful. Recently, she divorced, and she got a big chunk, big house, lot of money, but she was in stress, so I have to go there. Think of that. She wanted divorce, she got the divorce, she had a big house, she had a lot of money. First day I went there. So, come said, can you have a cup of coffee? I said, no. Normally I don't take. So she had a cup of coffee. She spent another 10 minutes in preparing the coffee and taking the coffee. And then she said, so we were sitting on the backyard. So she said, just wait for a minute. She went outside. She had a big smoke. And she came back and she said, okay, so I gave her a small practice which I gave to you, the self-awareness practice with the little breathing and the humming sound. So at least, she should calm down and then I will talk about it. But her mind was totally obsessed with her ex-husband. So, what was the result of the self awareness practice, which is known to relax your mind? There was no dispassion. She was totally attached even after divorce. She said, I was only thinking about my husband. He humiliated me, he tortured me. I said, now you got a divorce. Now everything is clear. So every practice that I used to give, I gave you, I gave her 2 or 3 practices, and every time her mind was obsessed about her husband. That happens. That leads to many psychological challenges. So we say that the regular practice is one thing. If the intellect follows the practice with a sense of dispassion, you're not attached to anything outside. Who knows it? The intellect is maintaining its awareness, and then you do the practice. Then every practice becomes successful. Our focus is still on steady wisdom. Steady wisdom, the intellect is not carried away by any past impression pertaining to the memory makes me forget what I am doing at present. John, if I say that, okay, you do the practice of meditation, you should not be disturbed even if the fire station blows the horn. Why? Because I'll give you $1 million. When the mind gets the pleasure, it says, okay, that will work. So here the dispassion is that I'm unmoved by whatever is happening outside. And it takes time. By regular practice, it comes. And once we have that steady intellect, you cannot be disturbed by any challenges, Charlie, including the grief that is, or the fear or the insecurity. That seeker is in the world, lives in the world, but satisfied with oneself. I talked about it. Satisfied with oneself, by oneself, not carried away by the people, place, objects, and event in the world. Seeker lives personal life with relations at home, but satisfied with oneself inside. Lives in relations not for the satisfaction and happiness from others, but expresses peace and happiness all the time. Tell me, is it possible or not? If my intellect is steady. If my intellect is steady, it is 100% possible in day-to-day life. Simple thing, I have yet to discover the real self, but can I keep the knowledge of the real self in my intellect during the practice, during my living day-to-day life, in relationship, personal life, professional life, social life? Let me keep that thought. That real self is full of permanent peace and happiness I have yet to discover. Why? To keep our intellect steady, and then we do the practice. When the intellect is hanging, changing objects, keeps moving, it is unsteady, causes sorrow and suffering. The real self, we have discussed that it is self existent, unchanging, all pervading reality. Let me remind you before we go for the practice. Do you love peace? Answer is yes. If you love peace, peace is your nature. So it means mind has a glimpse, mind has some idea that there is something permanent peace because it is my nature. Do you love happiness? Yes, I love happiness. Why I love happiness? Because that happiness is my nature. Do you still remember? The nature of the sugar is sweetness. Whether you put it into ice cream or candy or dessert. Do you understand that? Do you still recall? Do I love to survive? Survival is my nature. So, mind has a glimpse that there is something that is permanent peace and happiness, and that is within me. So, that glimpse is about the real self. And that is what we are discovering in in any meditation. So, let us start our practice. Eyes are closed and